State Archives has a manuscript collection of Brother Death.
Oh, you have the State Archives?
Yes.
State Archives.
Oh, I can, Brian McNerney is a wonderful researcher. He will be so great. I'm serving for him too.
Oh, those are on. Yeah. Okay.
Brian McNerney, who's the descendant, who's an archivist of the LBJ Presidential Library, will be so grateful. And he will probably come. I'm almost certain he will come and work with you.
So I'll try to be there on Wednesday. I'm the former state archivist.
Susan. Wonderful. Thank you.
Connections. Up there, louder. Okay. Next question. It's a good connection. Yes. Yes.
Please pass this one back to her.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I have a question for Rob. It's kind of like a legal question. I was wondering, since you're showing us all of those pictures of the fires and people having their complete collections destroyed, what happens after you've backed them up and you've digitized for them? Who owns the digitized collections? Do you own them, or what rights do the smaller institutions have after that?
That's a great question. So, in terms of rights of the records themselves, they're owned by the original record custodians. Whoever we collected the information from, if they have rights, those rights are established at the point in time when we make a digital copy. In terms of work that we do, we will assume ownership of what we call derivative work. And so if we do something to improve the usability, the usefulness, create finding aids or indexes and such, then that's material that we freely share and freely give back to the original owners, in this case, a Gen Society.
If I can also add on to that. So being on the receiving end of this, part of the agreement that is signed is Family Search license to the repository access to the copyright in perpetuity. So we get not only the derivative work, some would argue that the digital copy they create falls under that category, but also all the indices that they created licensed to us in perpetuity. And that is the big value add.
I guess this is for Barbara from TV now as well. There's a concern with big data. I mean, insurance companies, government, everybody's collecting a lot of data. Whenever you aggregate data, I guess there's always a concern that somebody might use it for nefarious purposes, pairing it with other kind of data as well. So I was just wondering what kind of security or policies or procedures you guys have implemented to prevent things like that from happening.
Sure. So on the website, as it exists today, there are different levels for stratifications of access. And depending on an original agreement that's arrived at with where the records come from, it's phased. And so there might be a situation where images themselves will be blocked from the website, for example. And the only thing that is visible is the index data that has been created. And we have situations where we will try and bring somebody to a conclusion, a sourcing conclusion, and then provide them with a link to an original record custodian site, or provide the information where they can contact and call and get an original copy of information. Oftentimes, working with vital records, for example, they'll want a genealogical copy. They'll want a reference. They'll want things that our institution and also the custodian may consider confidential or private or sensitive in nature. And our organization is very, very conservative And so more times than not, things will be, I would say, error on the side of being safe and protecting that information, as opposed to being the, the organization that is shedding light on things that may be questionable in terms of content that way.
So from our perspective, we're on the exact opposite side of that. Public records are public. They belong to the people as a singular collective. We are not gatekeepers on who to provide access to and who not to. Because if you've ever been to the archives, we do not ask your business. We don't care what your business is. We serve everybody equally, right, left, or center. So part of, going back to Jenkinson, the physical and moral defense, part of that is impartiality. So that we do not block access to public records, because they are public for a reason, with very few exemptions as allotted under the law, specifically dealing with PII and medical issues. Those we don't enter into agreement, we don't scan those unless they are completely redacted, and not the Trumpian redacting of where you just block out the image and not the underlying OCR, but absolutely cannot be accessed. So as the public archives, we're in a slightly different light on that aspect, and we're adamant that public records are public.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question about, I guess, the limits of the archive for the sisters. You mentioned that one of the sisters that lived to 101, she was in silent films, and I wondered if you were able to reclaim or add those films, the footage, to her portion of the archive, and then if not, personal letters, like what is the limit? What is there, because it's, people, right? Is it their personal diaries and whatnot?
No, we haven't been able to add the films yet. We actually don't have the Sisters Archives in our repository at the moment. They will be transferred in this summer, late this summer. But that's a really good idea about the film, so that might be my next research project. In terms of, the privacy issues and things like that with the sisters, this is something that we talked about quite a lot with them. What we told them was this is your collection. You can restrict what you want, period. However, what you don't restrict is going to be open to everyone. And so I think it was a little bit tough for them to understand that for a little bit. I think there were some sisters who were like, let's do this, we're totally for it. And there were other sisters that were like, well, what about my personal folder, my personal files? So I think what the congregation came to was an agreement within the sisters themselves that certain information would be okay to be released, but if a specific sister didn't want her file released, that's fine. We put it in and we embargo it, maybe for a certain amount of years until after she's passed. So they're happy with the agreement that we struck, but we were very cognizant of that. We recognize that these records are their history, and they're very personal in a lot of ways. So we want to respect that in every way that we can. Does that answer your question?
But I didn't run around here fast enough, and we ran out of time. So can we give these guys a warm, lovely